Okay, welcome once again to the Legion of Reason Diversion. I am your host, the Supreme Irreverend Dr. Randy Tyson. And I have with us a guest today, Mariam Shareefy. She is a Pashtun, a humanist, socialist, rock climber, something I used to do a long time ago when I was younger, women's rights advocate, and refugee activist who has spent her life working to empower women, children, refugees, and ex-Muslims. Mariam is a refugee from the Taliban and is now living in the United States, and she is a strong advocate of the ban on full face covering as it devalues, degrades, and dehumanizes women and is a key national security issue. Mariam will discuss with Twyla and I. I'm not sure what's happening with Twyla because she's kind of... she's using the app. Okay. Do not use the app, Twyla. Yeah, that's why she's having problems. Okay, so right now it's just you and me, Mariam. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I saw your talk at Ignite Boulder, and I thought I really wanted to have you on as a guest, and we could talk about this issue. It's come up a number of times in the podcast, and it drives me nuts that there she is. There we go. Let's bring her into the conversation.
Thank you. Sorry.
There you are. Okay, yeah. Don't use the app ever. The Windows app sucks.
It's the default, and I can't figure out how to get the app off so that it stops interfering.
Just that when you start Skype and it asks you if you want to try blah blah blah, say no. Just say no.
I thought I did. Oh my god. Yeah, Windows 10 is driving me crazy.
The Skype app is completely incompatible with the desktop version, and so anyway, we're out of here. Let's put that in the past and behind us, and we'll move forward. And we're going to talk about a bunch of things, mainly centering on the hijab in Western, the regressive left, and its almost adoption of the hijab. And so, tell us a little bit about the hijab, the history of it, Mariam.
So the hijab, it existed thousands of years ago. It started with religion, and what it stands for is what it is for is that it represents the modesty culture, a culture that women must carry this honor of, or this burden of piety on their shoulder, on this honor on her shoulder, that women are responsible, and these are all the values that we rejected here in the West, and it's sad that it's now being promoted. So from my experience, I was born in Afghanistan in 1988. A year later, that after I was born, the Russian forces were withdrawn from Afghanistan, and this was when the rise of the Mujahideen and when the Islamic Revolution in the country happened, and when they took control over Afghanistan, they made it mandatory for women to cover, and made a law that girls can only go to school if they wear hijabs, and the only jobs that women were allowed during that time was to either become a doctor or a teacher, and you become a doctor, you open your own clinic, and you only treat females, and you become a teacher, you teach only in females schools. So they killed most female singers, including Bakht Zamina, who was a very brave Pashtun singer. She sang songs about freedom, women empowerment. They killed all TV journalists or any woman who did not wear headscarves. And this was the time for Afghan females who were in media, TV, and radio profession. They have to leave the country. So to me, what hijab really stands for is, and what it is, that it isolates women from the society. It's basically that women must cover, or they have to stay at home and not be seen by the men. So these Islamic governments, or these Islam or Mujahideen or ISIS or Taliban, they all wants to control women with this, and they want to control them in every way, from how they dress to how they talk and what career or profession they wanted to choose. So to me, it's something that limits women's access to education, work, and healthcare, and she's treated just like a slave, staying at home, doing nothing but raising children and serving a man.
That was not that long ago, 1988.
Say that again, please.
It was 1988. I'm shocked. It wasn't that long ago. I was thinking it was the 70s. So I'm sorry for my ignorance on that.
So the Mujahideen, they started, their movement started in the early 90s, in the early 70s, in the mid 70s, sorry. But then they really came into power after the Russians were defeated in Afghanistan. So it was 1989, and then that's when they really came into power. But they started, their movement started in late 70s.
And that's more of a church movement or political, or both?
So to me, it's like an Islamic movement that they want to implement strict Islamic laws. And what those laws are, that, of course, in these laws, that they deny women's access to education, sufficient health care, employment, and strictly restricts their freedom of movement and association. So what they want to do is to want to have a religious society following all Islamic rules, following the rules that are what basically Islam tells you to that you must do as a practicing Muslim. So it's that spiritual version of the Islam, that you say the Shahada, you pray and you take fast, and then you have that political version of the Islam, which is the jihad, and that's where these mujahideen came from. And their motives are that jihad, to die for Allah, and then the martyrdom, which is to die in the name of the jihad, to kill in the name of Allah, and martyrdom to die in the name of Allah. So this all is a religious movement and political both. So there are just two versions of Islam, and they wanted to promote both.
Well, we've seen in the 1970s pictures of women at university, in modern dress, what we would call modern dress in the West. And what changed?
I think I see with the rise of the Mujahideen, of course, Islam was the big part of it. They wanted to just control women and make them stay at home. Mujahideen, they allowed women to go to school, but the only thing was that they must cover. So if you did not cover, that was a problem. You were allowed to have a job, but you could only become a doctor or a teacher. Then the Taliban came. So when they came, they brought so many changes, and they implemented strict Sharia laws. Women were they closed all female schools, which is basically all in this idea of the hijab that women must cover and should not be seen by men because they are sexual distraction is what makes them to do that and implement all those rules, that they closed the girls' schools. They were requiring that only religious subjects should be taught in boys' schools. So it's all it's all in that how to say their like symbol, the hijab. It was that the Mujahideens and Taliban symbol, but it's in the, of course, the two are political parties, but Islam also says that women must cover so she can be modest, pious, and chaste.
Ugh. And of course, controlled.
Yeah, controlled from dawn to dusk. Well, actually, probably even at night too. So, yeah, there's so much going on in the West right now that I think it mischaracterizes the hijab, and first of all, as a choice. If it's a religious requirement or seen to be a religious requirement by certain interpretations of the Quran, does that mean it is really a choice?
It's not a choice when you are, God commands you to, that you must wear it. You have a choice to either be, a good Muslim and wear the headscarf, and not be a good Muslim and don't wear it, So the women mostly, and like the reason that the Taliban or Mujahideen killed all the women that were in media or were seen by men, or they did not wear the headscarf, was that, sorry, I'm a bit nervous, I forgot.
That's okay. It's, this idea that it is a choice, or even worse, that it is just a piece of cloth, I think is very misguided. It's much more than that to people in a culture which is, purity culture, which is what is going on. And it happens here as well, does it not? I mean, there are communities which are largely Islamic, and it kind of insulates itself from the rest of Western society, and culturally forces women to cover their hair.
Yes. Things in the U.S. Some people, they wear it because of course they are following Islam, and to be a good Muslimist, that you must wear it to please the God. And then the other thing is that even in the U.S. we have a lot of females that are forced into like wearing them, which is very sad. I work here with the Afghan refugees and Muslim refugees. And I see most of females coming to me and saying that they are forced into wearing them, that they have no other choice but to wear it. So we have these two types of women in the West who live, who wear them because they want to please Allah, and then the other, and then they wear them to be modest and pious. And then there is the other Muslim women here in the U.S. or in the West that they're forced into wearing them. It's also not about the choice. It's like really about what it stands for. Like when I was a kid, when the Taliban came into power, my family decided to move away from Afghanistan. We moved to Pakistan so I can get an education, because girls were not allowed to go to school there. And I was only 7 years old, and I started going to a school in Pakistan that was so much influenced by the Arab culture or the Islamic culture. And for me, in order to go to that school, I had to cover. And when I questioned why I had to cover, like they said, it's a physical protection from men, and I must cover in order to be modest, pious, and chaste. So it's not about like a choice. It's really the discussion should be about like the girls that are taught from a very young age that they must wear them to be modest, and if they don't, they are not modest.
Yeah, that's the thing. I remember a tweet that what's her name? Linda Sarsour, a person whose name's going to come up several times, I'm sure, in this discussion, saying that she wears the hijab exactly for that. That it's a sign of modesty and self-respect. But doesn't that imply that she believes that women that don't cover their head are immodest and are lacking in self-respect?
Yeah, which I find kind of offensive.
It's totally offensive.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that tweet as well. Linda Sarsour, like, she defends hijab as modesty and self-respect as a sign. So what it actually means is that those women who don't cover themselves don't respect themselves, and that they are not modest. And it's not about this, like, just this modesty and self-respect culture, but it's also about like women's, how this modesty and then self-respect culture limits women's access to education, work, healthcare, and in the Muslim country, like in countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia and in Afghanistan. So it's when we say that it's a modesty and it's when we say that hijab is a modesty and a self-respect culture, we're also with that promoting that values that comes with it, which is that women must cover to be modest, and then how that limits their access to go to school or to go to university. Like in Kabul, in my hometown Kabul, girls cannot go to school go to university because in the university girls and boys study together. So that ideology that they have to be modest, pure, and women must remain untouched, make them not let their girls go to school.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen the various versions of the candy, unwrapped and wrapped. You know, the unwrapped one is covered with flies, equating women with as being, well, candy, I guess. It's
dirty candy.
Yeah, dirty candy, and you know, like that the covering is I don't know what, like a wrapper or something like that.
It's kind of a false reason, though, because how do I say your name again? I'm sorry. Mariam. As you've explained, that's not the real reason even. It's just a reason to then abuse women who don't do it. Because the actual reason is this, as you said before, is that oppression, control, and sublimation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here in the Western culture, basically it's a symbol of religious freedom. However, that religion is oppressive to women. So for the Western ladies to wear it as a show of whatever for women, they're just as much then supporting that oppression, control, and sublimation of women. Basically in support of Islam. Now, we're also, in Canada especially, we're trying to keep the KKK from having excuses to hurt people. Basically, they're the white supremacists. So there's this horrible balance of trying to make sure people are safe and trying to show that you're allowed to have this religious freedom, yet then it makes it difficult to stand up for the women, because then you get accused of being, intolerant of the religion.
Islamophobic.
Yeah. It's a big thing right now.
Yeah, Islamophobic, all those terms are basically kind of like a shut up to people like me who wants equalities for women in the Muslim world, who want the progressive values that we, the liberals, advocate here back in the country. So this is like a useless term, and it's basically used to shut us, like shut up. Like it's like, to me, that's what it actually means. And what they are trying to do with this term is to kind of eliminate anyone from the society who is critical of the ideology. So we need to make it very clear that we have no problem with Muslims, and that Muslims are just human beings. And but Islam is something, if we really want to advocate like women's rights, we really need to study it, and before promoting it as something that is religion of peace without studying it just because it makes us look progressive or tolerant. It's very important to study it, really see how Islam view women, and then talk about it. But yeah, it's very sad that we have here in the West the terms like Islamophobe, that in formal settings, like we have this thing that you don't you don't talk religion or politics at all. And we have that freedom of speech here, but all those things kind of like try to suppress it with terms like Islamophobe, like in things like we can't, in formal settings, you can't talk religion in politics at all. So we have that freedom of speech, but then why not use it? Why use terms like Islamophobe, or why say in formal settings and not talk politics or religion?
Yeah,
because
not in my house.
Yeah. Well, not mine either, considering only girls live here. So that would be another thing. I wouldn't be able to leave the house if Canada was like that. But so I, as a Canadian who has these freedoms, who wants to fight for women's rights, I have to be careful to frame my support as support for women to get rid of these oppressive symbols. And then now I'm fighting other white women who don't see this as an oppressive symbol, but I'm just glad for your voice saying, yeah, it is. I come from these countries. That's what it is. So your voice to me is particularly valuable.
Yeah, it is. Here in the West, we have two things. I was listening to this Sam Harris and Russell podcast yesterday, and I saw like it's not just Russell, it's like more the majority of liberals and most American in the West, they think like what's right now happening in the West, in Afghanistan or in Iran or in Saudi Arabia to women, that's part of the culture, and let's not talk about it. We can't comment on it at all. It's part of their culture. So it is that liberalism that you accept people with the way they are, but that people are kind of confused between Muslim as people and Islam and ideology. So bigotry against Muslim, there is this Trump's Muslim ban, and the Muslim ban thing that was last year all over the media, social media and TV and everywhere. So that kind of make a lot of people think that, oh, that's something that don't represent us all Americans. So instead of like showing it, so for showing solidarity towards Muslim, or to say that, you know, not all of us represent Trump, they would promote Islam instead, and they don't really understand. I was giving a talk actually in Texas, and after my talk, somebody came to me and were like, "Hey, I don't understand Islam and Muslim." So to me, it seems like a lot of people are confused between Islam and Muslim. Like I see that well intentions, that they're trying to show solidarity, but they're kind of confused and they don't understand the difference about Islam, or they've never studied Islam, so they don't know. And then how like, and it's also that the media, the U.S. media, and how it's like promoted since 9/11. Like when 9/11 happened, George W. Bush went to Islamic Center in Saudi Arabia, in Washington, D.C., read his favorite verses of the Quran and said, this has nothing to do with Islam. Islam is a religion of peace. So then Obama, he was not even okay with the term Islamic extremism. So all these people like me, a lot of the people who studied Islam and a lot of the people who wants progressive values or women's equality in the Muslim world or in the countries like Afghanistan, they were like so tired of all these hypocrisy and all these lies. So they that's why Trump won, because even a lot of the liberal ex-Muslims voted for him because he gave him kind of false hope with saying ban Muslims, that he has the solution, but this is not the solution. The solution is to say that an attack would happen, a suicide attack would happen somewhere, and the next day a liberal would go and say that this has nothing to do with Islam. Islam is a religion of peace, without even studying it. And we have to, if we want to end extremism, if we want to end terrorism, or if we want to end the oppression of women, it's very important to study Islam and say that Islam, it's not a religion of peace. There are verses, over 100 verses in the Quran, which says, kill the mushrikun everywhere, or mushrikun is basically anyone who equates to God, or kill the infidel wherever you find them. So there are disturbing verses like that that people don't know about. And then we have this majority of Muslims. So Muslims are from they are from all around the world. They're from India, they're from Pakistan, they're from Afghanistan, they're from Iran. So in India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran, they don't speak Arabic, so they don't read the Quran. They can't read the Quran because it's not in their language. We don't understand what it says. So they say no, because they are peaceful, that makes them think that the Islam is peaceful too. So Muslim and Islam, they're two different things, and it's very important to say that the bigotry against Muslim and criticizing the ideology, they're two different things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to keep in mind that Trump is a liar and doesn't know what he's talking about either. So he might say one thing because he knows he's been fed these things. It's what people want to hear. This is what you'll get votes. We all know he lied. So.
Well, I think a lot of especially President Obama, was looking for people who agreed with the position that Islam is a peaceful religion, and this had nothing to do with Islam. What would you have loved to have told then President Barack Obama about that?
He tried to go with Daesh and stuff a few times, trying to differentiate, but failed.
Yeah. So it's. Yeah, as I said, it's like this general idea that people trying to show solidarity with the Muslims living in America, and they're confusing Islam, the ideology, and then the Muslim as people. So they try to show solidarity. So instead of showing solidarity with Islam, they promote Islam without even reading it. So it's a bit concerning, and it's the people like us should have these open conversations about this, and to really say that Islam, we need to really study Islam, really understand what it stands for, and then make a statement that if it represents peace or violence. I've heard many times Obama saying that Islam is a religion of peace.
And you're like, no.
Yeah, it's even he was not okay with the term Islamic extremism.
Wow.
It was like, there is no such thing. There is one Islam, which is peaceful, it's beautiful, in that it represents peace. In that they were also like Obama as the president of the United States, in that our goal to end extremisms and war in the countries is in the countries like Afghanistan, and to end Taliban or ISIS. It's very important to say that they do represent Islam. They don't represent Muslims, all Muslims, but they do represent the Islam, because Islam, there are over 100 verses that says it's okay to kill the infidels or anyone who doesn't believe in Islam.
Unfortunately, this is going to be a common error with progressives. They're not going to understand that distinction. They're going to keep saying stupid things. So, unfortunately, I'll correct where possible. No, Muslims as a people can be peaceful. Islam itself, just like Christianity, they try to say, if you read the Bible, it is not a religion of peace. If you read the words, I mean, to make that distinction in the Western society, I think people are now trying to change religion itself. So are they going to try to then change Islam to be the like a more progressive religion here? But then how do you distinguish between Islam, the now so-called like Christianity, and most Christians, I would say, are not going to buy into those actual sayings into the Bible.
I wonder if that's part of the whole issue, is that most Christians here, they're nonviolent. They don't read their Bible. 97% people don't read their Bible. Don't. But they think, oh, well, Islam is just the same as Christianity, therefore the people are the same. I wonder if that's part of it.
Yeah, that mix-up where they don't even acknowledge the history of their own religion. They won't acknowledge Islam as it is in many parts of the world as it is now.
Yeah, so I think not a single religion in the world is peaceful, but I think Islam is the worst. So Christianity, Judaism, they all had that time that people were so fed up of all those, like the things that were in that Old Testament, who would promote women's inequality. So all those were kind of like edited. So like in the new version, you won't find... like I didn't read the new version, so I don't really say, but I can't really talk about it. But I've read the Old Testament, and like some times when I had discussions with my liberal friends, they would send me some verses from the Old Testaments, and basically they're doing that to kind of shut me up and say that no, you're talking about Islam and how it treats women, but hey, look at the Bible. I don't know about the new Bible.
Well, yeah. I've read the Old Testament. It's very oppressive of women. Women are the cause of all the evil on the planet. They're not just...
Well, the difference is that nobody's implementing the Old Testament, whereas in Islam they are implementing what's in the Quran. That's a big difference. That's a huge difference. So it's what is written. If you take it seriously, as Sam Harris would say, if you take your... Oh, sorry, can you hear me? I can hear you.
Uh-oh. I can hear you, Randy. Did we lose
Miriam?
Hello?
Miriam, are you there? Okay.
Hi, can you...
Yep, we're good. Okay. I think we should take this to something like World Hijab Day. I mean, that was on February 1st. And there was... I know that the Mount Royal University here had a thing where you could put on a hijab. And what would you tell these women in response to this? I mean, to me, it's just an attempt at normalizing a tool of oppression.
Well, it's that freedom of religion too. They're not separating that tool of oppression from the women who are forced to wear them and forced to say...
They ignore that part, yeah.
forced to say that, oh yeah, I love wearing it. I'm going to be pious. I'm going to be meek, and I'm going to cover myself up so that men don't pay attention to me.
So, Mariam, what would you say to these people?
So this World Hijab Day movement, or the organization, it was started by two people. One, Nazma Khan, who is a Bangladeshi American who owns a headscarf company in New York.
Oh,
yeah, I knew that. Yeah,
that I didn't know that. There's something wrong there.
Yeah. Conflict of interest.
That money or business interest for putting the headscarves on our head. And then Ahlul Bayt is a religious TV channel. I think it's in UK and Canada that promotes Shia Islam. So Shia Islam is the kind of practice in Iran. And they actually argues that women must wear hijabs to avoid unwanted attention from men. So I myself have a problem with World Hijab Day, and it really disturbs me. It disturbs me because on that World Hijab Day, you are not only putting that headscarf on your head, but you're also
promoting Shia.
Accepting or the ideology of political Islam that dictates women that you must cover to not incite passion among men. And what this ideology, as I said at the beginning, does is that it isolates women from our society. Like women in Afghanistan, they're dying because their husbands will not allow them to be treated by a male doctor. Like I said, many women can't go to school because in the university, girls and boys study together. So these are all this World Hijab Day and putting on these headscarves for one day on your head. This really disturbs me because these are all the values. Because you're putting the headscarf and it's also accepting the ideology and what it really stands for with it too. And these are all the values that we have rejected here in the West decades ago.
Yeah, I hope it stays that way.
People are so easy to dupe here. They don't look into who is promoting this day and how and why. And then the messaging that comes out, it's always the marketing. People just are not immune to marketing. I mean, come on.
And don't I can't believe that people don't know that women in Islamic countries such as Afghanistan or Saudi Arabia have to cover their heads by law. And doesn't that compute? I mean,
no, people are ignorant of the world completely. And even then, they're so dumb, they go to those countries and don't cover up, and then they whine when somebody rapes them, and they end up in jail, and they're surprised. Come on. Study up where you're going. You don't go, you do cover up, and if you get raped, you get out. You don't complain about it while you're there.
Yeah, so it is very sad that not a lot of people don't understand the ideology of this hijab or philosophy behind the hijab, and then they promote it as choice or freedom. So like women in Afghanistan can be killed for not wearing the headscarf, and we know what happens in Saudi Arabia. We know what happens in Sudan. In Iran, there are protests going on recently against this mandatory headscarf in the country, and there were 29 females jailed for those protests. And the ISIS, the first thing that they do is when they capture a woman, that they put a hijab on her. So these women living in these Islamic countries hate hijab, and they protested. But it's so funny that the liberals, they put it on their scarf and celebrate.
Because they're duped. Because they're duped by the marketing of the people who are promoting this day. Duh. Come on, people, smarten up.
Is this a form of dawah? What's going on with World Hijab Day? Go ahead.
It's not a dawa, I won't say a dawa, but what they are trying to basically do is that they want to normalize hijab in um
And then normalize the oppression of women.
the oppression of
Well,
women.
purity
Yes.
culture, yeah, through a purity
Yeah,
culture.
well, which a lot of Christians in the States are all about, and some here too. I live in the Bible Belt. I know about purity culture.
Yeah, have you ever seen the photos of what was the purity balls, where the
Oh,
father
God.
and daughter, it's almost incestuous. Like it
Well,
really
and the
is.
funny thing is we during the Western days here have a father-daughter dance. And all the fathers come with their young daughters all dressed up to the nines, and I kind of look at it and shake my head. It almost looks like a purity ball.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
Interesting.
It's pretty
Interesting.
sad, but I was going to go on to the fashion industry. I mean, Nike came out with the the ridiculous Nike hijab, and there's also the new Barbie. It's those aren't. I mean, you can't see her hijab when she the fencer that they modeled. You can't see anything like that when that person's fencing. I mean, it's kind of silly. There was a Muslim woman, who I think was much more worthy of modeling, and that was the 100-meter hurdles gold medalist. I can't remember her name offhand. She wasn't wearing any hijab.
Yeah.
I think it's much more worthy.
Well, it's kind of oppressive trying to wear one of those when you're running. Are you going to win wearing one of those?
Well, the Iranian women's soccer team was wearing
it's
those
soccer,
ridiculous.
though, not a race.
Yeah, but well, you think soccer isn't a race?
It's not
the
like
Olympic team. They had to wear hijabs.
As a team, I think you're not going to feel the wind. When you're running or swimming, or you need some. In order to win, you need every advantage, and the hijab is not going to be an advantage on your head.
It wouldn't help you or hinder you, I don't think.
It would hinder your streamline.
I just think it looks ridiculous. No, the race is over too quickly. No, it's serious. People have had bodysuits in the Olympics. They don't do much.
No, but try wearing a hijab when
it covered the head as well.
I would have to cover my whole head so it doesn't catch any wind from the front.
It doesn't have that much. Anyway, these things, why don't... Well, of course, there was also the chess championships that were going to be held in Tehran, and they were requiring that women wear the hijab. And one of the chess masters said, nope. And, it's... So this whole fashion industry now is driven by this need to placate.
Well, it's profit too. They're gonna. It's terrible profit.
Go ahead.
Yeah, one is the profit in that money piece of it. So they want Muslim to go to those stores and then choose them and to shop there. And then the other thing is, I'm sorry, I forget what I say. I'm sorry.
I have a pen in my hand. No, they're pandering, so I think they're shameless. But the thing is, it's not a loss for them. If you're not going to denounce them for, making symbols of oppression to sell, then they're going to make money off of it. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, so there is the money part of it, and then which is for them, it's very important. And then there is also this publicity piece of it. So now, if you are a hijabi in the U.S., if you wear hijabs, and if you start to work on women's rights or whatever, then you are the center of the U.S. media attention. So there is that a lot of publicity behind that. And when these brands start to promoting or start modeling these women with the headscarves or with the hijabs, or they advertise or create ads with women wearing hijabs and try to sell their brands. So it's only the money, and it's also the marketing piece of it, trying to make themselves known in that community, so they can make money out of it. So that is that money piece of it. But what they are actually doing with this is that they are perpetuating this ideology of this political Islam that women must cover to be modest. I saw this Macy's ad, an article about Macy's saying with the subject line, Macy will be selling modesty clothing. So what did he mean, like modesty clothing? So basically they are just not only selling these hijabs, but they are also selling these words, modesty, and that really concerns me, because we had a long fight here in the West to reject those values, and now we are bringing them back.
Yeah. And then I'll be seen as some whore bag for not wearing it. Great.
Yeah.
And I don't think the people here understand just what it is that they're inviting when we normalize the hijab. You know, like
pander.
The family, you know, it's a very patriarchal system in Islamic cultures. And
yeah, and there is this other thing here in the West too, like you see women from very privileged background here, Muslim women, they wear headscarves, and then they go in media and start talking about it, how empowering it is.
Yeah.
Then a lot of people in the West sees women like them. It kind of makes them think that, no, we were wrong about hijab. Look, this woman, she is an independent woman wearing a hijab, and she is saying that's what, you know, that it's empowering to her. So when they see women like them, then they if they taught that hijab doesn't represent choice or freedom, then that kind of changed their perspectives. So I've had several discussions with friends here on hijab, and they would say, but I have this friend in the university that she wears hijab, and she says that she feels so beautiful in it. She wears it because it's empowering. So when people see women like them, it makes them think, but what they don't understand is that these women are celebrated and empowered in their communities when they talk about issues like that. If they come out as without the headscarf and start talking about how oppressive this is, then they have like no support. And then so these women are promoted when they start, like when they sell this idea of the hijab as empowerment, as a choice, that the Muslim women living in the West, when they talk about it, so they are in their communities promoted or kind of praised when they talk about it and how empowering it is. And then that kind of gives the general public the idea that, oh, look at that woman. She's empowered, she's an independent woman, and she thinks hijab is empowering. So we were wrong about it.
No.
Hijab is empowering, it's freedom.
Well, I've even heard...
then they're oppressing all the women in their culture that don't want to wear it. Why are they the voice? Yeah. Why aren't there some that are showing they have a choice and can come out and wear their hair and be empowered? Why is it only one side?
Well, there's also the whole thing about Islam being the most feminist religion. I mean...
Yeah,
that's like...
What do you
That's
say
like
to
saying
that?
Christianity is, even though, if you look at what happens to Lot's daughters, if you look at what happened to the women in the Bible, they,
Yeah.
I mean, it's so easy to market ideas and ignore the actual facts, and that's the way the world is today.
Well, then you get these other people like MTV's Decoded. I sent you that link, Miriam,
Yep.
for that video. What did you think of Francesca Ramsey's and her Muslim friends' viewpoints on that?
Yeah, I saw that. I think it's very common that the Western media would invite a hipster Muslim like Fariha in that video, who doesn't know anything about the hijab or what it stands for or anything about Islam. And then these are the people who have never studied Islam, and then they came and start talking about it, about like it was so I was watching, and she was saying that she doesn't have to pray, but she wears hijab, and I don't really understand. So she promoted it as like hijab is more important. Like, in order to be a good Muslim, you must wear the hijab, and it's more important than pray. So prayer is like one of the pillar of the Islam, and then hijab is not like the fifth pillar of the Islam. You must, but if a Muslim woman pray, she must wear the headscarf. So these are the things, and I was so shocked when I saw that how could they invite someone who doesn't, like, her name was Faria Khan, and she seems to be an Indian or a Pakistani who has no idea what Islam is, what hijab is, what it really stands for, and then they bring them in there and then they sell it. So this is another example of like one of the Muslim women that I was saying, that she would go and then she would wear the headscarf and then she talk about it, and because she talks about it and promote hijab as something empowering, she is praised in that community. So these are, the women who talk about it, and that kind of make a lot of people think that we are wrong about the hijab. It's not an oppressive tool; it's empowerment tool.
So, so you would agree with in France with that MTV video got it wrong, that it's not the hijab that was banned in France. It was the full face covering, the niqab.
Yes.
That is something that we should consider.
Yeah. So they were also saying that I saw that they promoted the full face, that the France or West is trying to ban the hijab, but what. Even in Afghanistan, in Kabul University, when you go there, and if you are wearing a burqa or full face covering, you're allowed to go there, but then there will be extra security check by the police to go to the university. So that, to us, like, I was so surprised that when I saw that, how would someone promote a woman's invisibility? Hijab, I think this full face covering, it's something that's highly undesirable. It's something that should be discouraged, and I'm strongly for banning it, because this degrades, devalues, and dehumanizes women, and it's also a key national security issue. So even in Afghanistan, if you go to the Kabul University and you're wearing a burqa, there will be an extra security check by the police. They would check your bag and make sure that you're not bringing anything or not doing a suicide attack or something. And even here in the US, when I see women wearing a full face covering hijab, then I kind of get scared and try to find a different direction and not be in there, because that I do get scared. So that's something that should be banned. And I was so amazed that they were upset about it. Like, any woman who is aware of her rights as a human being would not want to hide her identity and be invisible in a society. That's something that should be banned, that should be discouraged. I fully support the ban. And it's sad that they would want to, people would want to be against it and would want to be against the idea that women have the right to show their faces, to express themselves with a smile and a gesture. It's sad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think it's misrepresenting what the niqab or the hijab even is about, because one of the things that was said in the video was that it's about their identity, that it's just like wearing a Christian cross on a necklace. I don't think that's true.
No.
Yeah, they're so different thing. You put the Christian cross on your neck, and then, I don't support any religious symbol, but the headscarf is like about controlling women from their, like, every one piece of their hair. How to say that in English? Like, from their hair to toe. So these are two different things. And not culture, like it's not a culture, it's a religious thing.
Thank you.
There's no such thing as Islamic culture, it's just the religion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and when you start going into those communities and you see women who are looked down on for showing hair, that is oppression. These women aren't held up as examples. These women are going to be shamed.
Yep. Yeah, so there is this talk that I gave at Ignite Boulder that Tyson was talking about earlier. And then I was looking at it, at the comments, and then I saw this woman, this man commenting there saying, go and, like, wear a bikini and please men or something. I don't remember what it was. Yeah, but, like, so the women who, like, speak against it, or the women who don't wear headscarves, they are seen as immodest. So even in that video, I don't remember what it exactly was. So they are trying to shame the women who try to, who go to beaches and want to feel the sun on their skin, and by saying things like that to women who don't wear the headscarves, or against the idea of this hijab and what it stands for.
Yeah, so they're going further and shaming them further.
Yep. So they don't find the courage, so the Muslim woman won't find the courage to throw them off, because then in their community they're seen as immodest and not good women.
Yeah, I've got some of the video going on right now from your Ignite Boulder. You can't see it, but people watching the YouTube feed can see it. You were speaking at the Ignite Boulder event, and that's, of course, how I learned about you, and wanted to have you on the program to talk about this. It's certainly much more powerful. I was going to say impactful. My wife hates that word, so I can't use it. I actually agree with you. It's a terrible way of using it. But anyway, it's more powerful coming from someone with your background, and I think that the more, like, your voice, or Azra Nomani, I'm sure you're aware of her.
Oh, yep.
She's also very much against the hijab, but she's still a practicing Muslim. And so if you look up those two people in videos, you'll get a good background on in what's wrong with this, and I highly recommend them.
Yeah, so as a woman, I'm going to stand in solidarity with women's rights and against this February 1st Are we going to see this every year? Will I have to complain every year? When are people going to clue in?
Yeah, who knows? And it's just the tip of the iceberg. It's the hijab is just, well, it's a little bit more than a symbol, but there's a lot of other things that, a baggage that gets carried with that symbol. We've touched on some here, where a woman has the burden of the family honor.
Yep.
And it's yeah. I hate the concept of honor to begin with. Not this kind of honor. I mean, it's just,
especially when there's honor killings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Women are killed. They're not equal because they're, there's the famous surah for, woman's word, woman's word's worth half a man's. I don't know how that equates to equality. I don't know how you can get equality from that. Is there anything that could be done in the meantime in sort of changing things in the Islamic world?
So in the Islamic world, the main thing is the Islam. In Asra Nomani you were talking about, while I don't support myself the kind of what Asra Nomani is trying to do. I don't know the English word for that, trying to edit kind of Islam.
Reform?
Yep, yeah. So I'm not for reform at all, because for me, what it does is that it kind of it's like you're trying to fix a broken thing that doesn't work anymore. But the Islam, for as long as those countries, as the Islamic countries, call Islam a holy religion, and they never try to touch on these issues, because it makes them, or anything that challenges their faith, that there will be no really equality. I see a lot of these women's rights, women empowerment organizations in Afghanistan, they're making an impact. There are women going to school, and there are women playing sports in Kabul, but there are still a lot needs to be that, and a lot needs to be in. There's a lot that needs to be done, and that's really deeply rooted in Islam, and how it's being taught from a very young age to people, very young girls and boys. They go to Saudi-funded madrasas in those countries, and they have to memorize the Quran that they don't have to. And what I would suggest is that shut down all those Saudi-funded mosques there, shut down all those madrasas that teach only political Islam and jihadism. And what I would suggest is what we need to advocate is that that the religion should not be part of the school curriculum, especially for the very young kids. And I see these movies here like Star Wars and all that, and these are really good example of, if religion was taught like that, I think the world would have been a more beautiful place. So instead of course, this is something that I think would take decades or generations to implement. But right now, the most important thing to understand is that to not stand, if we want to stand with our Muslim sisters, instead of if we want to stand like with a Muslim sister, that doesn't mean that we have to stand with the hijab. We shouldn't. So all these things are like here in the West. If we are, so the things that are oppressive on those countries and are creating women's equality in those countries, if they are not promoted here, and instead of standing with Muslim sisters, if they, instead of celebrating the hijab by standing with the, I don't know how to say this, I'm sorry, I'm so nervous.
Well, you have no reason to be nervous here.
I think it's my first time because I'm talking about all these very sensitive issues. That's why.
Thank you.
Yeah. But the most important thing is that we need to understand that standing with a Muslim sister don't mean to stand with the hijab. So instead of celebrating hijab or Islam, we need to work for Muslim women's equality around the world. We need to work to promote equal access to education, to work, and to healthcare. There's a lot of inequalities in the Muslim societies. Like women gets less inheritance than a man. These are the things that we need to fight for. Like women are half witness in court. So these are the things that we really need to promote in the equal access to education, equal inheritance, and becoming an equal witness is something that we need to fight instead of celebrating Islam or hijab or things like that.
Thank you. I've written all that down.
So, is there any thing you'd like to promote before we sign off?
Do you have another talk or appearance?
Say it again, please.
Oh, I'm just wondering if you have anything.
Do you have another talk?
If you have
another talk or appearance?
I don't have anything. Yeah, but I just want to add one thing is that we were talking about this hijab, and I want to make it clear also that I support every woman's right to make their own choice, and if they want to wear it, wear the hijab, or they want to dress like sorry,
more modestly.
So modest.
Yeah, to be modest, so they have that choice. So I will myself never tell a woman to not wear a headscarf, but the most important thing is that we should not ignore the fact that girls in the Muslim families all around the world, not just in the Muslim countries, but all around the world are taught from a very young age that they have to cover in order to be modest, pious, and chaste. So it's very important that we support people's choice to cover or to dress however they want. But it's also very important that we have discussions like we are having right now, and to really discuss what these things stands for, so we can really end this woman's oppression all around the world.
Yeah, exactly. Don't promote a symbol of oppression. Don't also say you'll never wear it, even if you do have a choice. But do not promote a symbol of oppression when you don't understand that it is, basically. As just one day of, I mean, it's kind of hypocritical almost. It's like, oh, look, I have a choice for one day and I'll only wear it this day, but I don't have any consequences when I don't wear it, unlike some women.
Yeah, it's that's the thing, right? just because somebody tries on a hijab doesn't mean that they know what it's like to wear it, like in the sense of most Muslim women.
Yeah, to be accepted, to have to wear it, to be shamed if you don't.
Yeah. Well, Mariam, I think we're going to sign off now. We're getting past the 1 hour mark. And it's been nice having you on. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you so much. Yeah. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, someday when you feel comfortable, come back and tell us your story, because I know that's got to be interesting. So.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I was a bit nervous. I think it was my first time talking on that Islam topic. I don't know what, so I forgot what I was saying.
That's okay.
That's okay. I do that anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
for me, it's just age.
Yeah, stay in touch. And I
will. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Talking to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yep, bye.
Bye-bye. You've been listening to the Legion of Reason Diversion, coming to you from Alberta, Canada. If you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing to our bi-weekly podcast on iTunes and other podcatchers. Even better, subscribe to our YouTube live sessions where you can join in on the discussion. Thanks for giving us a listen.